all this tinkering, with technology, uh, while we're running out of time. We're running out of time, as you're pointing out there. But I mean, we have, as a species, human beings. I think this was pointed out very starkly just a couple of years ago in an address that Noam Chomsky gave. Well, I'll set aside the controversy over his sitting down with Jeffrey Epstein. Sad though that may be, what he said is worth repeating. And basically, the issue is whether human beings, which have a fantastic ability to think things through, to plan, and so on, but also have a kind of an instinct, I guess, to self-destruct and to destroy things. And so we've come to a point where we have to very shortly make a decision as to which way we're going to go. And we're talking about not just water issues. We look at Iraq, in Iran, what's going on in the Persian Gulf. Trump threatening to take out energy supplies and desal and so on in Iran, which really only relies on for desal on 10% of its water, whereas the other Gulf states up to 90% and so on. But it's already in a state of, I think you would call it, water bankruptcy, which means that there's no, it's just diminishing return. There's no replacing, refilling their supplies, and they're down to catastrophic water supply levels, and there's internal fighting and so on. And they've threatened to, and have to sort of said, retaliated by hitting the desal plants elsewhere. And so we have a catastrophe there, and the doomsday clock is closer. By the atomic, the group of atomic scientists is he also learned is closer. It's closer now. It's within seconds of the time when we could expect possibly a nuclear holocaust to wipe life out. And here we are tinkering around with our usual stupid destructive things we do. And so how do you get an agency like the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, which is the mother of all water agencies, or most water agencies in Southern California, including the San Diego County Water Authority, which is a highly transactional agency, a lot of politicking going on, power plays, and so on. And it kind of reminds me of, the so-called banality of evil. These people who are just sitting there while everything's crumbling around them, and are actually, in some respects, egging on the Trump administration's approach to self-destruction. And so how do we get organized to do something, to actually do something? And we know what the potential for catastrophe is. Any sensible person knows that. And so what do you think we can do about that? How can we shake the MWD, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and other agencies to their senses?
Well, John, after about 40 years of working on it, I can't say I have an answer. I say it's continuously challenged, and some of it may have to break down on its own weight, I'm afraid, because it can't continue the way it is. As you well know, I supported a general manager of the Metropolitan Water District who was a change agent, and we thought they seriously wanted to make change. His background was on recycled water with the city of Los Angeles and environmental programs. And he came in and tried to change a very different culture, which, like you said, has a lot of politics and other issues going on. And he was summarily dismissed despite our efforts. So if it doesn't come from the top, it's going to have to come from all the many people that are appointed without oversight and without term limits who sit in those positions of power. Now, I was elected to a water district in Ventura County from the little town of Ojai. Still has a remnant of kind of gentleman farming and its own groundwater. We had looked at getting water from the State Water Project, which is that big aqueduct coming down to the Five, and weren't able to do it, which was a good thing because then we started to take care of our own groundwater and deal with issues locally. The state legislation that was passed, as I was starting to mention, in 2014, 2015, called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, to set up these new groundwater agencies as an example of what you shouldn't do because it doesn't get implemented until 2040 or 2041, despite the plans we've recently passed. I sit on one now for what's called the Mound Basin, the bottom of the Santa Clara River in the Oxnard Plain and near the city of Ventura. But those processes kind of deny the inevitable. It's like, we've got a terrible problem. Let's have a committee and study it forever. And the solutions we come up with or the trends we ignore don't seem to apply to it. So, you brought up a lot of issues that are happening. The disruption of the global trade with war, especially around oil, the criminal threats to blow up infrastructure, bridges, desalination plants, and others. But no one talks about, are there limits to any of these resources? Are there limits to growth in certain places where we don't have adequate local resources? We don't talk about, yeah, we don't talk about that until we create those limits ourselves. But the first thing that has the impact are not the people trying to make money off of it, developers and others who should be part of the solution and have been in the past sometimes, increasing efficiency. In Australia, they actually mine the sewer lines below the buildings that they build and treat and capture that water to do things like flush toilets. Our whole engineering version of solutions, which work quite well and were amazing, engineering feats to build a gravity-fed system that takes the whole Owens River and delivers it to the city of Los Angeles, or the Hoover Dam and those other dams, which provided electricity and water for many years. But we can't live on that baseline in the past. We have to realize things have already changed, and they've changed drastically. And the impacts on the tribes, the Mono Lake, which is a unique alkaline lake where brine shrimp birds fly from South America. All these impacts have happened because we've just looked at a single focus on engineering. How can we get this water for more development for Los Angeles? And the tribes who lost their land, who lost their water, who lost their culture, are fighting back to get what they deserve there as well. So we need a much broader way. The word holistic doesn't really cover the way we need to look at these issues if we're going to survive.
They're not even officially part of the process, either in California or dealing with the Colorado River Basin.
No, they've been left out of the process. I would recommend something that I've been doing for a lot of these things over 20 years, but one of them is Southern California Water Dialogue. I know you listen to them, John. They vary in terms of the outcome of how they work, but our attempt is to get different viewpoints once a month. And we don't meet at the end in November, December. But but we pulled together. So the last one was actually on water affordability. Um, we had three different perspectives. We had Max Gomberg, who gave a kind of a strong view from the environmental justice point, and we've talked about the Colorado River on a regular basis, including having a tribal representative who isn't part of the negotiations. I would say the same for what DWP is doing. They've never complied with that 30% savings that we did through community groups, which was so successful till they kind of stopped the program, where that water was supposed to go back to the freshwater tributaries that flow, the creeks that flow into Mono Lake to create that ecosystem in balance. So, while the Salt Lake City has built out and assumed part of the Great Salt Lake, that lake is dying. We don't want to kill the environment for short-term promise of water that won't be there in the future. If we do it right, we can have both, but we also have to admit there are some limits in location and where and how we build, and people don't want to hear that. Um, but I think if you ask people directly, if you would save water, which you've done, we've shown that even with population increases. If you want to save water, wouldn't you like a percentage of it to go back to the environment? People would say yes if they had that option. But instead, DWP's ignored the decree from the State Water Resources Board for 31 years, going on 32 years, and they won't negotiate with the tribes on these issues. And it's that kind of command and control view of resources that has to change. How
Well,
we
we're
do
destroying
that, I don't know.
we're destroying all our resources and access to the resources while while the people who are managing them are playing political games all the time. And it's like this memorandum of understanding that the San Diego County Water Authority reached with, which doesn't mean anything. It's not a contract. It's just kind of like a promise to try to take its desal water, its expensive desal water, as you said, should be approaching about $4,000 an acre foot now. At any rate, way more expensive than anything else. Which only is a small, literally drop in the bucket when you consider the whole Colorado basin and the states who suck water off of it. And so they're for a small, piddling amount of water that they now have this idea to. The MWD hasn't approved it yet, but they probably will. To take their expensive desal water that their constituents, that their ratepayers don't want to pay for, and is making them politically desperate. It's threatening the very existence of the San Diego County Water Authority, because one of the ways to cut back on expenses is to get rid of that agency and all the perks that it has, and so on. That's been seriously brought up, and so they're desperate to get this off their back. So they want to. Certain states like Nevada and Arizona have expressed an interest in a paper water exchange, taking this desal water, and so basically the water authority would be selling its share of the Colorado River water, a share of that to these other entities. So, but that is nothing. That doesn't going to solve. It's going to refill Lake Mead or Lake Powell or anything. It's not going to. It's a joke, and we're all wrapped up in this bullshit. And for this deal that they made with MWD, which has to do with transactional politics, which we'll have to go into that in another day, but that's all related to the scandal of really replacing, of sacking their progressive former general manager Adele Hodge-Khalil. But anyway, so here we are, and it's crazy.
So, John, I agree with you on all that, but the question is, you can make water as simple or complex as you want, and I think we have to get back to the basics. So that there's a tendency to make these issues complex, and the idea that the paternal patriarch of water agencies will take care of it for you. I think that era is done. I think people are understanding water. When I talk about it, they're interested in a way they haven't been before, and they're getting involved personally in it. So I think that will change, but institutions and their cultures don't change easily. They resist, and as we've seen, they go backwards. But really, what we should be thinking about in these difficult, chaotic, volatile, and dark times is what can we do locally? How can we work with others? And how can we actually have success? It takes a long time. I've been working on the treatment plant in the San Fernando Valley back from the 90s, in the day when an unfortunate editorial came out from a candidate who was on the city council had voted for the project called the Tillman plant and the East Valley recharge of taking that recycled water and letting it recharge like Orange County has done it back into their aquifer, cleaned up. And for many years, through many mayors, and now we've broken ground and we're moving forward on it. But I have to say, the other half of that is our objective in looking at this as environmentalists is to come up with solutions that benefit everybody, the environment and people. So the cost-effective solutions that are immediate and can help the environment are part of it. Some of them are longer-term projects like this. So the Metropolitan Water District has hearings coming up on their budget. So if you're interested in water, you have to look and see how money is going to be spent. And we want it to be spent properly with input and an understanding of what the impacts are. That's it. I mean, people spend a lot of time attacking environmentalists without really realizing what we're asking for and how much time we spend in looking at other solutions in these long-term boondoggles that just don't seem to happen. So, we're forced to get real about these things. The Colorado River isn't going to replenish itself, um, and we've polluted our offshore and the ocean. I mean, a lot of places you're talking about drawing desal intake water right next to a sewage outfall, which was a discussion we were having. So we've actually been promoting and prioritizing cleaning up that sewage water so it doesn't get dumped into what we call receiving waters, creeks, rivers, and others, and is reused. So that Tillman plant, big stormwater projects, given that we're getting a lot of this water all at once, nothing in between, how do we capture that water locally? I know people personally that keep putting in bigger and more cisterns around their house so they're not dependent on buying water. People want to be independent from these big centralized systems. So we should make maximum use of reuse. I know a wonderful woman engineer has been working for years. A lot of her work ended up being overseas, but getting industry who finally gets it now to capture and reuse their water, not to dump out the pollution, but to clean it up on site. There's lots of solutions there, and I think that's what we should be focused on, and think of what we're going to do in these extreme conditions we're living in. We're supposed to have a super El Nino, which could mean hotter and drier. It could also mean more extreme storms. These cycles that we used to have off of the jet stream um, are erratic now. So the baseline that we built this whole big plumbing system on of storage and snow melt isn't working anymore. Um, in a way, these are fascinating times, but they're also very challenging. And it's going to take a new generation of engineers who look and think about things differently. And I've seen that happen with young people I work with. I think it's taking it's a new generation of people from tribes and environmental groups, community groups, neighborhood groups who are involved in this. Another excellent group I work with is called Amigos de los Rios, that does local water education, keeping schools from flooding, putting the water back in the ground while creating playgrounds. Simple things like that, replicated everywhere, could make a huge difference. Getting the community groups that save water to work in their own communities and actually have an economic development through that with community-based organizations is a project that's shown to work and needs to be replicated. So in the end, it's going to come from the bottom up, not from the top down. And those are the changes that will work. And we should consider what works and what is just a fantasy and for profit, not for the public. And we should think about ultimately what we're working for. Here is what's called the public trust. It's a doctrine in the state. The Mono Lake decision was based on it. That's the way we should look at groundwater. It's the way we should look at surface waters. That's the way we should look at us all water is whose water is it anyway? Is it our water or is it a commodity to be bought and sold? And until we decide which way we're going to go on this, a hard path or a soft path, we will continue to be in this quandary.